for those of you who don't know me, I'm the executive director of École de Choix, the School of Choice. I'm also the founder of the School of Choice. And I'm on the call today with Kyle. Kyle, can you wave? So that's Kyle. He happens to be on my upper left, probably not for you all. Kyle is our chairperson of our board of directors. And Ione, can you wave? So that's Ione. Ione is our campus director. And for the three of us, we work together to coordinate the operations and ongoing activities of École de Choix. We also have a number of members of our board on the call today. We have Lou is on the call. Georgette will be joining, so when you see her name, she's on the call. Tony is a board member and she is on leave currently. We also have members of our advisory council on the call. Sue Cicero is here, Samir, Robin is our financial director, and we have many of you are contributors. We also have partners on the call. Tiffany is down at the bottom there, and on my screen. Tiffany is a partner of ours from Souls for Souls, and Souls for Souls over many, many years has helped us to provide resources for our students and other partners, and she's been a fabulous networker. Souls for Souls not only deals with shoes, as you might imagine, but also help provide the uniforms, the uniform bottoms for our students. So we've been very helpful. Fritz was, he's over on the side, which is why I didn't see him. Fritz looks like he's on the phone, but Fritz DeRousseau is another member of our board. I just didn't see his face. So, and Georgette just logged on, and Georgette is another board member. There's Fritz, that's why I didn't mention him. So we have board members, all sorts of different people. We have partners in Project Global Story here as well. So a variety of different people who can also chime in when we get to Q&A. This Zoom event, a new event for Schwa. We've never done it. In the past, we've done fundraisers to bring people together and update them on our activities and to thank all of you for your support. And we appreciate the opportunity to do this and come together during a period that makes it pretty tough to get together. So we thought that this might be an easier way to give you an inside look at the school and how we're responding to some of the real challenges that we face today and perhaps in the future. And so we just want to be able to move forward and give you that information. If you could just, I think all of you are, but if you could just keep your mic muted. But if you have questions, we're going to do Q&A. So if you just click below at the bottom of your screen or your phone and add your questions into the chat, then we'll monitor that during the call, during the Zoom, and we'll answer those either, if we have time, try and answer all of them during the Q&A, or we will follow up afterwards and make sure that we answer them certainly after our time together. And let me, we also want to let you know that some of our discussions today were pre-recorded. For instance, we have an interview with some students and we were concerned about our connectivity between here and Haiti. And so we just wanted to be sure that we could bring you this really important information from some of our colleagues. So most of you know, I'm trying to see if there are any, we might have some new people on the call, but our mission is to partner with Haitians in order to educate and develop Haitian youth so that they can grow to lead their communities, their families, lead Haiti, and hopefully be leaders in our world environment. And we serve youth in grades 1st through 12th in this leadership development program. We have a full-time program during the day between 1st and 6th grade. And then when they graduate, and we sort of call it undergrad and grad. So when they graduate in 6th grade, between 7th and 12th, they come back for lunch and then afternoon academic activities and athletics. They also have access to our technology lab, nutrition, as I said, our health services, art, and other things that are offered. For instance, we do yoga and meditation now, and so that, or when we're in session, and so they have access to that as well. And while we want to provide an update on the current environment in Haiti, it's sort of important to understand that Haiti's situation is a little different than the rest of the world's because it already was experiencing something called pay lock since July of 2018, almost 2 years ago. Well, literally 2 years ago. And pay lock was a country lockdown, which many of us, I mean, we still, I'm in St. Martin, and we still do not have flights coming in from the US. So they were experiencing that, and it impacted us in a number of ways. And throughout our academic year, our students missed school days long before COVID. And so we also had challenges in accessing resources from Port-au-Prince because of protests and roadblocks. We were able to open briefly this past fall, and we did, and we had full attendance. It was fabulous. And then we had to close again for security reasons, not for COVID. And then we were able to open again in January. We were thrilled, and we had a successful winter term until the president mandated school closures because of COVID in mid-March. And because the US State Department issued a level 4 travel alert for Haiti last fall, it took COVID a bit longer to get to Haiti, just so everyone is clear on this. But it certainly arrived in full force. So for those of you who might not know, even before we stopped classes and we were in session, we were ready and prepared to talk to our students about security, about safety, about how to deal with opening and closing, and preparing them for these health and safety challenges that we all are learning about now. We were talking to them about it in January and February, and we were really prepared for this. So that's just a bit of the background. Iona is going to discuss what we're doing now, or what we've been doing for the past few months, in just a moment. So we're going to begin our first sort of introduction. What we are excited to share with you is to introduce you to two of our Schwa students and share with you their perspective. And then we've asked one of our in-country board members, also named Fritz, but Fritz Jean, we've asked Fritz to share with you a bit of the lay of the land of what's going on in Haiti today, just politically. Some of you might not know or might be interested. He's going to share that with you. Then Ione and I are going to interview each other a bit and share with you some of those answers, what's going on at Schwa and in our lives. She's also going to discuss the impact on some of our students, their emotional well-being, and how they can remain as safe and healthy as they can. And then Kyle is going to offer some of the various ways in which we all can really have an impact on the lives of our students and families. And there will be time, we really hope, to hear from you and what your questions are and how we can give you the most information that we can in this really sort of live format. And Robin, I love seeing your kids, so let them, they might enjoy this first segment. So let's, without ado, without anything else, let me go to that. And so what I'm going to do is share my screen with all of you and allow you all should be able to see it at this point, and introduce you to some of our students.
Hello everyone, I am Ione Cassens. I'm the campus director of Schwa, and I want to introduce you to our friends and students this morning. This is Monsieur Fodner. He is our IT professor and manages our computer lab. He's a very, very valuable member of our staff. This is Benson. Benson is a 6th grader at Schwa. His sister also attends Schwa, and he lives very near to the campus. This is Will Risch. Will Risch is in the 9th grade this year, and she's one of Schwa's graduate students. So we would like to start this morning with a question for Benson. Benson, what do you love the most about Schwa?
Benson, qui sont les pupilles au sujet de l'école de choix?
Moi-même, les professeurs bonne éducation a dit pour même pour me partager avec famille, papa, maman, sœur, et puis toute famille.
Benson liked the most when he received at Schwa the good education for sharing to his family.
And Rich will ask you the same question. What do you love most about Schwa?
Wilrich n'a posé la même question. Qui sont les plus au sujet de l'école des gens?
Moi-même, ça me met plus dans l'école des choix. C'est bon gens, éducation au bateau, et bon gens encadré nous encadrement en pile, et nous toute l'école des choix.
Wilrich says that she likes when at Schwa they help them. They help her. And the good education that she receives at Schwa. And she likes all things at Schwa.
And Rich, what does your family think about Schwa?
Wilrich, qui sa famille pensée au sujet de l'école des gens?
Famille française, l'école des choix, c'est une école qui travaille un bon encadrement. Et l'école des choix, c'est une école qui est toujours là pour aider tout le monde qui a tout besoin, qui besoin de bon encadrement, et toujours là pour l'encadrer.
My family thinks that school of choice is a good school because school of choice help her family and every children that we have in this area.
Thank you, Rich. Benson, a question for you. What do you miss the most when you cannot go to school?
Benson, qui sont songés plus lors de l'école?
J'ai bon gens éducation, professeur comme moi, j'ai mes camarades, j'ai cuisiniers, les coachs, j'ai mes secrétaires, petit conseil comme gouverneur la bio, j'ai tout ça.
I remember all things at Schwa. I remember the cookers in the kitchen. I remember Mr. Father in the lab for all the counsels that he gives me. I remember my friends, my classmates, and I remember the coach and everything.
Merci, Benson. Rich, same question for you. What do you miss the most when you're not able to go to school when school is closed?
Wilrich, qui sont songés plus lors de l'école ou bien l'école fermée?
L'école fermée, moi songe tout camarade moi songe l'école là, et moi songe bon genre éducation qu'on a bon dans ça, et moi songe tout professeur, plus matière, plus songe les pas venir l'école, c'est mathématiques.
I remember my friends, my classmates. I remember the good education that I always receive, and I remember a subject the most, mathematics.
Mm-hmm. And you're very good at math.
Yeah.
Benson, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Benson, qui sont arrivés l'anglais, l'anglais.
Dans le docteur, pour me l'éducation pour les personnes qui sont malades.
I want to be a doctor just to heal people who sick. Who is sick?
Mm-hmm. And what positive change can you make for Haiti, Benson?
Qui ça de positif? Qui ça de bon ou pas faire pour faire la guerre ça? Alors pour Haïti. Qui ça ou pas faire de bon pour Haïti?
Nous devons parler avec tout le monde qui en Haïti a dit pour respecter une autre.
I can talk to people in Haiti so that they can respect each other.
On peut encourager au fait ça. Communication, on peut encourager au fait ça. C'est vraiment important. Rich, What future do you want for Haiti?
We wish. Qui l'avenir ou souhaiter pour Haïti?
Montagne Haïti d'un pays moderne. So, il n'y a pas aucune difficulté à vivre. Pour Haïti, ça vient changer. Parce que si on va à l'école, toujours des manifestations, ça on va nous dire pour nous, c'est ça nous dire. Pour Haïti,
I want Haiti becomes a modern country because children can go to school every day. We have a lot of things like manifestation and protest, like protest. So I want Haiti change. It's for this reason I want everyone has respect for each other.
That is so important. And what will you do to make that future happen for Haiti?
Et qui ça que vous faites pour faire dans ça? La mise à vous souhaiter à vivre pour Haïti.
moi, je fais entraîner une pour l'autre. Et mettez dans une salle pour me faire bon genre d'éducation qu'on a besoin dans l'école de choix. Bon genre, comportement qu'on a dit, puis genre pour prendre la rue, puis genre pour parler, si on pour faire bon genre d'éducation.
I want them has respect, and I want to take them to a big center so that I can talk to them to be together and give them good education. That's all. The same way that they give me education at Schwab, I can give them the same education so that they can take part in the change of Haiti.
Oui, merci. Parce que bon bagay nous toujours encourager dans l'école là, toute bonne information, éducation nous gagne, tout le monde dans la communauté toujours une responsabilité pour partager ça avec l'autre monde, l'autre côté, tout côté. So we always encourage in the school that any good information or good education that we have, every member of our community has a responsibility to always share it with others. So for myself, for the other faculty members, for all of our staff members, for Monsieur Fadner, for everyone in our community, that is something we are always encouraging the students that we work with to do. And through that, we encourage ourselves to do the same, which is what allows us to continue our work with all of your support. So thank you for sitting with us today. Merci nous t'aider pour chita aujourd'hui pour faire parler. Nous comptons que vous nous en bonne santé, en sécurité. We are happy to see our students are healthy and safe. Merci to Monsieur Fadner. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Laura. I am delighted to be speaking with Fritz Jean, one of Schwa's newest board members, and an accomplished Haitian economist who has served in several prominent positions in Haiti's public and private sectors. So Fritz Jean, we are so grateful to have you as part of today's event and to hear your perspective on Haiti's current situation.
So am I to be with you, and I thank you and Laura to invite me to be part of this experience. I think Schwa is doing a great job in Haiti, so I'm very, very glad to be part of this experience.
Wonderful. Well, you know, I would like to really start by just getting a sense of some of the challenges that Haiti was facing before the coronavirus made its way to your country. For those of us who may not be as familiar with what was going on in Haiti before the pandemic, can you give us just a picture of what life looked like back in, say, the beginning of March?
Yeah, I think this is a very fair question because one has to understand that even before the pandemic, Haiti was in political turmoil. And in fact, since July 2019, the country was locked down. I mean, people could not travel between cities. And in fact, Haiti was cut from the world. And as a matter of fact, the World Bank was predicting food insecurity in Haiti for at least 4 million people. So just before the pandemic, the situation was very, very difficult in terms of the economic situation. And in fact, a lot of entrepreneurs were going down as far as the capacity to meet the financial obligation to the banking system. This is just before the pandemic. And in fact, the World Bank and the Central Bank of Haiti were predicting like a decline in GDP close to 2%. And we're talking about a country, an economy that was not going well. So that was a deepened recession that we're going into before the pandemic. And as a matter of, and something else that is very important to understand is that before the pandemic, we're looking at an agricultural sector that was lost really at least 10% of the production as compared to last year. So that was already a very difficult situation before the pandemic.
So given the challenges that you just mentioned, I'm wondering what the impact of the coronavirus has been on all of this situation.
Yeah, in fact, as related to what I said, so what COVID-19 was doing is to aggravate a situation that was already very difficult in Haiti. And what happened with COVID-19 was because of social distancing, was like cut from the rest of the world because of COVID-19. Like as most of countries in the world, that was the same situation in Haiti. And because of this situation, Haiti was a country that was like 60 to 65%, let's say 50% of the economy was based on services. And I would say like 65 to 70% of what we consume in Haiti was imported from the world. And Haiti lived, in order for us to balance the commercial transaction of Haiti, we needed the transfer fund from the diaspora of Haiti, which means that with all that is going on because of the pandemic, the situation will become very, very difficult because of the pandemic. And we don't know exactly how things are going right now, but the projection of the IMF and the World Bank, we are talking about a decline in GDP of at least 4%, which is a big dip for an economy like Haiti. And also in terms of unemployment, we have to look at Haiti, like most of Haiti, like talking about 70 to 80% of Haiti is an informal economy, which means that people has to go out every day in order for them to meet the necessary needs like food, staple, and stuff like that. So for people to stay in confinement in Haiti, it's mean two things in Haiti. So we don't know exactly how things are going. We don't know how when the country is going to be open, and particularly open with the United States, because we are receiving a lot of transfer funds from the US and from Canada. And right now, things are pretty much closed, even though we are still receiving some transfer from the diaspora. Mm-hmm. One has to understand, because of the crisis in the US and the crisis in Canada, the volume of transfer that we used to receive is diminishing. So, which means more constraint, more stress for the household in Haiti.
What do you think Haiti needs in the short term to manage the crisis that you just mentioned, particularly the food supplies, the health and safety supplies that you might be depending on imports for? And then what do you see as kind of the long-term solution to a lot of the challenges that you just mentioned?
You see, when we're talking about the challenges of Haiti right now, we have to take into consideration the crisis before the pandemic, which means that we have to address those problems. And those problems was political problems. So the political turmoil that put Haiti in this situation, we have to know exactly what was the political situation. And in fact, we are still in this political turmoil. I think one thing to be addressed was the problem of insecurity in the country. Because right now, people could not travel between cities. The communication between cities were very difficult because of the insecurities of situations. So in the short term, we have to address this insecurity problems. We have to address also the corruptions, transparency in managing public funds. Those are short-term problems that we have to manage. In short, the political situation has to be clearly addressed in order for us to move forward. And if we're talking about the long term for the situation in Haiti, in the long term, we have to lay out really a comprehensive plan of what, in order for organizations, political parties have to embrace the new conversation, what you said in Haiti, what you call in the US, the new narrative. I think we have to put down a new conversation in Haiti. And this conversation has to be around social inclusion and economic inclusion, because we cannot continue to produce this level of poverty in the country. And I think this is the problem.
Well, thank you, Fritz. That's very helpful, and you've given us a clear and really helpful way to understand some of the challenges that Haiti has been facing even before the coronavirus situation was coming up. I'd just kind of like to end with one final question, and that is, what gives you hope for Haiti? You've got a very extensive and distinguished career helping a number of high-level Haitian organizations. What do you see that kind of inspires you or gives you a sense of hope for the future?
Despite all that is going on right now, political insecurity, political challenges, the insecurity, social insecurity, and economic inequality in the country, I think what is going on, what is emerging is this kind of conversation that I'm talking about. And I think this conversation can really deepen in the country if we understand that we can no longer think of Haiti inside the 27 kilometers, square kilometers of Haiti. We have to think of Haiti of people in Canada, people in Europe, people in the United States, and establish the networks of people that can help us consolidate this kind of conversation that we're talking about. And in fact, this conversation is emerging with people in civil society, with people in NGOs. And in fact, I'm glad you asked this question, because Schwa is a part of this new conversation that is being established in the country right now. And I think the job that we're doing, that we are helping kids in the center of Haiti, we're not only helping kids, but also helping the community to see themselves other ways. And I think this is what we have to establish in the country in order for us to move forward. This new conversation between us and in the networks that we establish inside Haiti and outside of Haiti.
Well, this was great, Fritz. Thank you so much for taking the time to give us a kind of on-the-ground look at what's going on in the country right now. We are so grateful to have you as part of Schwa and to have your perspective on today's events. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So you were able to have a little window into our students and their life. And then you heard from our board chair. For those of you who chimed in late and might not have heard our intro, you heard our board chair, Kyle, interview one of our board members, Fritz Jean. And now we're going to hop, and as you saw, and I apologize, but we really wanted to share with you Fritz's perspective. He has held a number of different positions in Haiti. He's now the director of a nonprofit there that is a think tank and does a lot of really interesting writing and advising and counseling in Haiti, and he's held a political office in Haiti. So we really wanted his perspective. And now we're going to go, and you saw that we had some technical difficulties, which is very standard in our life and sort of how we need to communicate. So it wasn't on purpose, but then you all get to experience what Iona got to experience with me all the time. So you got to feel a bit of schwa there. And now we're going to move forward to Laura and Ione. And Laura and Ione did our pre-taped interview as well, because we want to make sure that Ione would have access. So, so welcome to the world of Laura and Ione. Laura and Ione speak, we have a standing call once a week, and then we talk like another 11 times a week. But so we talk all the time, but we decided to interview each other. So here you go. Hi, Ione.
Hi, Laura.
Ione's our campus director, which means that she is on campus every day. She's responsible for all of our on-campus operations, oversight of all of our staff, and certainly responsible for the health, well-being, and academic preparation of all of our students. So welcome, Ione.
Good morning.
We are taping this interview, just acknowledging, because I'm assuming I'm not going to be wearing the same shirt. We're taping this interview because our internet connection is not always stable in Haiti, though we do try our very best. So I'm assuming that you'll have seen Ione earlier in today's engagement, but I'm welcoming her here. Ione, you and I have had a number of conversations since early January about this strange and extremely contagious virus. And at Schwa, we tend to be prepared, you and I and the rest of our colleagues at Schwa tend to be prepared for any situation, and this certainly was no different. And so I'm going to ask you first if you can just discuss how we prepared our community in advance of the school closure mandate that we learned about.
Well, and it's absolutely our responsibility to be prepared for any epidemics, pandemics, natural disasters, political unrest, insecurity. It's absolutely our responsibility to prepare our community for those instances, the best way that we can. So for this mysterious virus, there was so much uncertain, which still remains today. There's so many unanswered questions about it. We did start discussing and putting plans into place in January before our campus even reopened. So following holiday break, we were one of the few schools locally that reopened on time. Not only did we reopen on time, we had full attendance. So that made it possible for us to put this planning and preparation into place on our first day back on campus. Increased hand washing. Hand washing is something we spend a lot of time at Schwa talking about and doing, but it was increased, certainly. We put out pamphlets. We sent out visual literacy-friendly flyers so that our community members could really have the information at their household. We have employee members that are involved in community groups all throughout Mirabelais as far as Port-au-Prince. They were sharing important teaching methods that we had discovered from the World Health Organization, the CDC. We were one of the first people to start sharing this information locally, and we did it very quickly. I mean, even as far as other neighboring schools that were able to reopen in January, the local banks, institutions such as that. So that was very helpful. Also, our registered nurse that we always have full-time on campus was able to speak with our students on a daily basis about any new information that we had.
Thanks so much for all of that. And in fact, there's more, but we're trying to, there's much more.
There's always much more.
Yes.
They know that about us. Anyone who knows us knows that.
So when we received word that the president ordered all schools to close, and we got that word, you and I were communicating, and it was a Thursday night. I remember it well.
In March, yes.
Yes, in March. He sent word late on a Thursday night that schools were not permitted to reopen that following Friday morning. And I give testament to you and to the way that we run our program, that we were prepared. And we didn't know when it would happen, but we knew that it was a possibility. So we put our plan into action immediately, and we were ready for that closure the following morning. So can you describe briefly for those participating today, what are our current activities? What are we doing? Because school is closed, one would presume you're hanging out, doing nothing. But that, of course, we all know is not true. What are we doing in terms of our food distribution program? And how do we keep that process safe in terms of being safe and healthy for our staff, our community, our students, and everyone involved?
Schwa is always working, and we are always engaging with our community. It's our everyday. So what we're focused on now is monthly food distributions. The reason we are doing them monthly is both because of the way the products come in. It can take some time for shipment, and because when we call everyone to come to the campus, we want to make sure we're distributing a quantity of goods that will hold everybody for a certain amount of days and weeks, which is appropriate. So because we have a communication line always in place with all of our parents, all of our employees, the day the products arrive, call the staff arrives, we start inspecting, counting, getting everything ready. Now we have that down to a process where that takes maybe 1 day, a day and a half, because everyone is very trained in this, and all of our health procedures as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. I'll walk you through that. But following that, we do 3 days of distribution. We split them into chunks and section them off that way so that we don't have too many people present on campus at once, which is very important with the health procedures that we're following now. So we're distributing things like hand sanitizer, rubbing alcohol, which is so important. We are distributing fabric masks for each family, a number of those, soap, antiseptic soap, which is even more likely to kill any germs, bacteria, viral or bacterial. We are distributing cornmeal, beans, rice, and a very high protein canned fish. So it's these kinds of things that can be not even so much difficult to find here, even though that does happen, especially during times like these of real difficulty, but they are very expensive. So the items we are distributing, especially when it comes to the hand sanitizers and the masks, those are things that our community could not really have access to locally at all. So without those distributions and without, all of the support of our contributors to make all of that possible, they would not have access to that otherwise. So some of the, which is so vital. So some of the health procedures we have to follow, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are familiar with that. It's happening all over the world. Everyone who arrives on campus, including our employees, our staff, our students, even people coming to pick up, the families coming to pick up the kits for distribution, everyone must wear a mask. And because they've received masks already during the last distribution, now everybody is ready to go. You'll see our students in the masks even in a number of the photographs that you'll be looking at. We keep everyone at least 6 to 8 feet apart at all times when they're in line. When everyone arrives on campus, they first wash their hands, and then they are led to a table that we kind of call the demo table, where they are instructed about materials such as vitamin C, which is another really important material we've been distributing lately. Vitamin C, how to use the hand sanitizers, re-emphasizing the good techniques of hand washing, etc. And then they go through where they are given their materials, and we help them pack them into boxes or bags, and then they go right back out again. So it's a pretty quick process. We are doing everything we can to keep our employees safe, and everyone safe and also comfortable knowing that they can rely on our methods and strategies. When they come to work, they will have gloves, they will have a mask, everything will be spaced out in advance appropriately, and everyone will know what their position is and how to lead the distribution through that. So that's very empowering for our employees as well that are working in the distributions. And we split our staff members too. So every time we do a distribution, I call a different group of our employees because we have almost 40 people. And it's important to sort of stagger them as well, so that not only everybody gets to participate in the process, which is very rewarding, they are engaging with our community on a regular basis too. When the families come to receive the distributed products, they see us and they know, oh, Schwa is still there. There's Monsieur Josue from the 2nd grade. There's Madeleine in the kitchen. We are, the entire team is still here and still working. That's very important to demonstrate.
Ione, it sounds from what you just described about all of the ways in which Schwa is responding in really unique ways or with some distinction. It sounds as if we're doing, this is going to sound self-serving, but as if we're doing what needs to be done, right? And that's always been Schwa. There's a need, and we do it. We pivot. We figure out what needs to be done, and we do it.
There's a need to respond, and we're there.
And we do it. And if we need to be, that was why Schwa began in the first place. I mean, I was involved in some other things, but I knew that there was a ceiling that people were hitting. And it was because the average education of a Haitian adult is only 5 years, right? And so adults in Haiti could not access the full quality of life that really—
The level of need is overwhelming.
Yes, so we need quality education. So we're providing quality education. And now our opportunity, our ability to provide that education is constrained, and yet they need the fundamentals that people need to survive. And we are doing our best to build that capacity to provide those opportunities. And one thing that we have yet to mention, which I think is really important, just to slip in here before we talk about next steps, is that one thing that people need is a job and a salary. And I just want to supplement your last answer with the fact that not only during this very difficult time, but during all of our difficult times over the past 10 years, and during good times, of course, Schwa has never missed a pay period. We have never missed a payroll. And I want to give you credit that you have ensured that during the best of times and the worst of times, you have, at great risk to you, you have made sure that our staff and faculty have always received their compensation, and on time, exceptionally. And during this period as well, we don't say, our staff isn't working, but we're paying them anyways. Our staff has been on call every day, ready to serve the very following day, as you just discussed.
And they will continue to be indefinitely.
Exactly. It's not that they are, thinking of this as a lovely holiday. We are all scared and uncertain about the future, but also ready to serve that very next day. And they are being compensated for that preparedness, for their training and development, for their care and concern. And we are compensating them because it is the Schwa thing to do. And it is what we do because we are Schwa. It's in line with our values, and our contributors support that, and our board supports that. And you and I never thought of it a different way. And I want to go on to our future.
That we do then that. But you were talking about the constraints of the current time, which is absolutely true. But even within those constraints, we can still maintain our holistic approach. So it's health and wellness through distribution now. It's meal program through distribution now. We are continuing to educate our community through these flyers and health protocols. We are standing by our employees and our staff members, and to know that they can rely on that level of commitment that we have with them. That lends so deeply to our model of leadership development and community development, knowing that there is such a strong level of trust between us that we share with all of them. I mean, that's extremely important.
And we would do no differently and we have faced financial challenges, and I'm sure we could again. And we have certain standards that we will.
Every organization has priorities.
In other places, it's not an option. All right, so the last subject that I'd really appreciate it if you could address. I know we need to give a moment in a moment to answer any questions that our friends here might have for you and others on our call. But before we head to that, is there anything else that you might want to add about your thoughts for our future and what are our next steps? We are doing this now. What will we do tomorrow? What will we do for the future? And what can you tell us about the future for Schwa? Please.
Well, every day we wake up and we think about next steps. Every night we try to sleep while we're thinking about next steps. But what I've come to realize now, and when I was speaking with some of our students the other day, and on a daily basis, our employees as well, it's, you know, what we're going through in Haiti, the level of challenge is different, and it's unique in a lot of ways. Our program is unique and very special within all of that. But, you know, people are people, and our students are the same as children all over the world. As you know, Laura, your stress today is very similar to a lot of the things I'm going through, even though there's a lot of distance and geography between us. You know, they have fears. They continue to hope and really want to come back to school. They continue to be motivated, and they are staying inspired by inspiring others to remember what's important right now. So this is it's a very difficult thing to witness, but it's a very inspiring thing to witness as well, because they remain motivated. Our staff members want to come back to work. The students are ready to come back, and I think everybody in the world is going through that right now.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because I think that those on this call or who might view it later, those of us on the board and contributors, we all would love Schwa to reopen, but we want to do it in a safe and healthy way. And for the students' health and well-being, that's always been our top priority, and mental health, physical health, emotional health. And we look forward to contributing, you know, to the future, not only of Schwa, but of Haiti. So thank you for this. And we're now going to open the floor to some questions that perhaps those of you can submit using the chat. And I'm going to hand it back to me in the live feature. So we're not saying goodbye to you, Ione. We're going to see you on the other side. All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Okay, thanks, Laura. Okay, so that's weird, because I kind of felt myself like nodding when I would normally nod, and like seeing myself nod at the same time. That was very weird. So welcome back to real life. And I just want to thank Ione, who I'm getting, she's holding on. Like she's holding on, there she is.
I have to keep my video off right now, but I'm still here.
Okay, video off. She's holding on by a thread on Haiti, on Haiti's poor connection, but she is still here and she's still holding. So we're catching on there. And so we're back, and we have an update from the students, and hopefully most of you were on when we heard the students, and we're just so pleased to have heard their voice. And thanks to Fodner, who's our tech director, and he was our translator on that. We go to him, he's our go-to for a lot of our translations. And then we heard from Fritz Jean, and then we heard from Ione and Laura. And now we wonder if we can hear just a little bit, if anyone has questions. We have a brief brief comments from Kyle, just to close our call shortly. And as I said, we're on Schwa time, so we promise to close on time. But if anyone has any questions, you can add them to the chat, or we can go right to Kyle, and certainly you all can send them later. And we just wanted to make sure that we sort of addressed, sort of from the students' perspective, our country perspective, and then our campus perspective, to give you all a sense of what we're doing today to respond to our current environment on the ground there. I do want to say, because I'm going to hand it over to Kyle in a moment, but I do want to say thank you to those of you who took your time with us this evening, our contributors, our board members, our partners. You know, we sort of separate out, you're all contributing in so many different ways, and you're all contributors. And we use the word, you'll see we never see the dreaded D word anywhere in our materials. We don't call any one of you, you know, donors. Just by giving your time here, you're contributing. You are a contributor, and our students are contributors, and Ione is a contributor, and Kyle, and our partners from the various foundations and organizations that are represented. So you're all contributing to Schwa and to the success of our students and our families and our communities and the country of Haiti in the work that you do. So I am grateful. Kyle, I'm going to hand it over to you to share with us how we can contribute to that impact that Schwa can have and that our students can have in the future. Kyle?
Thank you, Laura. And again, thank all of you for joining us tonight. It really is a pleasure to be with all of you. I know it's kind of a strange and different experience, different from what we've done in the past, but it really has been a privilege to get to see so many of you. And it's truly a community. I mean, that was one of the things that really attracted me to Schwa from the beginning, is that Schwa is a community. It's a community not only in the sense that the students are a part of the community, they decide they are treated like valuable members of the community. The staff and the faculty are part of the community as equals, but it's also all of you. And it really is exciting to see people from India, from Haiti, from all over the United States on tonight's call. So thank you. It's just such a privilege to be a part of this very rich community. You know, one of the things that I was thinking about and that has been reported on and talked about in terms of Haiti is it's often called a forgotten crisis. And I understand that in one sense, you don't see Haiti in the newspaper every day. You don't often read about it in online news, unless there's some kind of tragedy or crisis kind of going on. But it's not obviously forgotten by the Haitians and by the Schwa community. This is something that they live every single day, and it's their reality. Being a part of Schwa, being a part of the community, however, allows us to remember them. And it allows them to know that people outside of their community, people around the world, care about them. People around the world are rooting for their success. It gives the students such joy to know that there are people in India, in Boston, in Chicago, that are behind them, that are standing with them as they go about their days, as they educate themselves and develop into the leaders that are really going to change the future of the country. So Schwa's mission is critically important. It's always important, but it's especially important today. We see all around us the need for leadership, the need for this type of advanced thinking that's going to put Haiti, put other countries in the position in order to succeed. The nice thing about Schwa and about supporting Schwa is that, you know, we are meeting both an immediate need today. As Ione described, we're doing food, health, and safety distributions. We are responding to the community in this time of crisis, but we're also meeting that long-term need in leadership development. We are building students like Will Rush that you saw today, who are going to be Haiti's future, who are going to take the country onto a different direction. So many of you are already contributors. All of you are contributors in some way, as Laura mentioned, by joining us tonight. If you're not, you know, there are many different ways that you can get involved, and I would just invite you to take a look at the School of Choice website. It's schoolofchoice.org, where you can find out a little bit more about ways that you can get involved in Haiti and in what Schwa is doing. One way that I just want to highlight tonight is that, you know, you could be a sponsor of a student or provide scholarships for our graduate students. So this is a way to really connect with one of the students. You help them by providing the funds that allow them to attend Schwa, that allow them to come back to Schwa if they're a graduate student, and to really develop their education. I am a sponsor and a scholarship provider, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to learn about a student in Schwa, at Schwa, and to see their development. Ione does such a nice job of sending updates, sending photographs, sending artwork. I was supposed to meet my friends at Schwa in November. Unfortunately, we had to cancel that trip, but I'm eager, really excited to get there one day to meet the students that I've been learning about all of this time. And I hope that you would consider this if you're not already a sponsor, because it's a great way to make that connection, to get to know someone at Schwa. Another option is something called the gift catalog. Now, the gift catalog has a number of different items that you could purchase for Schwa, everything from backpacks to school books to just supporting the internet technology system that we have developed on campus. It's a great way to meet the real needs of Schwa and to see and identify what your funds are going toward. And of course, if you want to make a one-time contribution, we always welcome that as well. The point is, however you choose to contribute to Schwa and whatever level of support that you can provide, your contribution means so much to our students, to their families, and ultimately to the future of Haiti. So I just want to thank you all again so much for taking the time to be a part of this conversation. If you do have questions, by the way, feel free to email Laura, myself, Ione. We would love to respond to any questions or inquiries that you have. And with that, I'll kick it back to Laura if there's any final notes that you might have.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I just want to mention that you know, people have visited. It's a little tough to visit now, but you know, people have visited and really had a lovely experience meeting their students. David Feuder is, I feel like David Feuder's in the room. You know, I can't do it. Rachel, my daughter, would just make fun of me, but you know, David came down, he met his students. Lou Brigham's come down, he's met his sponsored student. Nancy's been a sponsor for a long time. Sue, I don't even know how many students Sue has, like, through her network sponsored. Patty, Emily is a contributor. You know, there are so many contributors and sponsors through years. Isa's not. Isa's basically a student. She just walked out of the room. I think Georgette, I think it counts that I have sponsored Isa, so I don't think that works. So we just, people, it's become part of their lives, and these are students and they watch them grow and develop. And I will say, you know, every time, you know, a student stumbles, because, you know, we all know kids, it just breaks my heart, and we do whatever we can to allow them to develop as youth and to get them back on the right path. And you know, and oftentimes, most of the time, you know, we do. And Schwa is that right path for many of them. And so with your help, I think that we are allowing a community and their families to progress. So I cannot thank you all enough for your time this evening and for the time you've given to Schwa in the past and hopefully in the future. And I'm available, Laura at schoolofchoice.org. So just send me a note, and thank you all for joining us. So have a lovely evening, and be safe and healthy. And Ione and Kyle and I say goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Ione.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Good night.